is Real Maghuyap.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are right now watching this. And I hope that you are enjoying the last day of the event here at Softcon. Um, to be honest, it's good to be back myself. My last time speaking for Softcon was back in 2019, so it's been a while. And yeah, once again, for those who just joined, my name is Jesper Maguyup, and I work as a technical advisor for Kongsberg Digital here at Norway. And I'm also one of the community lead for Angular Philippines. And also, if there is any question that you might have regarding to this topic, or uh, even not related to the topic, and for whatever reason I wasn't able to answer it, maybe I don't know the answer yet, you can just ping me on Facebook. I'm very friendly. Or you can just go and search Angular Philippines on our Facebook group, and you can post your questions there, and we will try to answer it as much as we can. And also, before I begin, I have some polls I made just to see the people attending my talk, and also to have a small fun interaction with you guys. Feel free to check them out. I can already see some of you already answered them. So yeah, it's good to see. And yeah, let me begin by sharing my screen. Okay. Um, yeah, so today I'm gonna be talking about how you can build your custom widgets or plugins or custom elements or web components, whatever you call it. They are all have this similar characteristics, and we'll be using Angular and Angular elements and deploying them on Azure storage. So yeah. My agenda for today is to first I'll be identifying or like an overview of what is a widget, why do we have them, why do we need them, and then of course Angular elements, what is it, um, how do we use it, why do we even want to use it, yeah, and then Azure storage. We're gonna talk a little bit about Azure storage, Azure Content Delivery Network. Um, but of course, we're gonna do a little bit of hands-on on a later stage on how to build one, and then how we can reuse that custom component that we built. Um, what I don't or won't be talking about is how to use Angular. But hopefully, even if you don't know Angular, um, as long as you know at least basic HTML or JavaScript, or even if you're not technical at all, if you're a project manager, I hope that you will learn something from the topic, and you can share this to your colleagues, your friends, or your teammates, and hopefully it solves some of your current issues. So, what is the widget? What is a widget? According to my friend Google, the term refers to the part of a graphic user interface that allows the user to interconnect with the application and the operating system. Widgets display also information and invite the user to act in various ways, depending, of course, on what kind of widget do you have. Um, and then widgets are not only found at the web level, but it's also possible to find them in operating systems such as Android, iPhone, Windows, etc. So basically, your mobile phones or desktops, um, there's a bunch of plugins or widgets that we have on those systems. But for me, ultimately, for me, it basically means that it is a program with predefined functionality and behavior that can be embedded and reused. So the word reusability comes to mind if whenever I think about widgets or plugins or yeah custom components. Um, if you've worked with a content management system, specifically or such as WordPress, it basically lives on with multiple widgets to build a website or a web application. So next is what is Angular Elements? So a brief history about Angular Elements. It was released as part of Angular 6 back in May 2018, and Angular Elements are just regular Angular components that have been packaged as a custom elements. And custom elements are part of web components and allow us to create new HTML elements that can be used directly on our page or by using a polyfills if they are not supported by the browser. So even if you don't use Angular at all, there's a bunch of other libraries out there, or even just vanilla JavaScript that utilizes web components in order to build or create a custom elements. So yeah, yeah. So Angular Elements is framework agnostic. So it doesn't matter if you're using vanilla JavaScript or if you're using React, if you're using Vue or any other um, popular frameworks, JavaScript frameworks that we have in the market right now. Once you build or create your custom elements, you can import them, embed them in your application. Again, regardless of what framework they are. And Angular Elements exports the create custom element API, which allows us to basically define our custom elements and then register them. Um, yeah. So why you wanna use Angular Elements? So one reason that I had in the past or based from my experience is one changing application architecture. So if your application is currently using the mono um, architecture where everything sits in one application, where your back end, front end sits in just one application, and then you wanted to transition, I guess, into microservice architecture. Starting with Angular Elements is what we did, or easily for us to helped us to transition into that architecture, into microservice architecture. Also, um, again, if you're uh, building or using a content management system, most of the time they are using monolithic architecture, and then you wanted to transition into headless, since most of CMS these days offers headless. Then yeah, with that you can easily transition with um, um, microservices architecture. Sorry. Um, it also enables each services to be developed independently by a team that is focused on that service or feature. So, for example, you're building just a small feature, right? You can have a separate team building that one and have your main team focus on the main application. And then once that small feature is done, they can just the main team can just plug it in, right? So they don't have this entire responsibility of developing the other feature as well. So it helps have the development a little bit faster. Yeah, and with that, you have the benefit of publishing part of the application independently. So as soon as that feature is available, they can publish it, and then once the main application needs it, they can just pull it out. Um, of course, building custom plugins. So building custom plugins, many times when we try to build custom plugins or custom features, um, or yeah, I guess specifically on the CMS side, we try to build like custom plugins. Most of the time, the styles get overwritten by the main application. Um, for example, your main or if your the CMS uses, let's say, Bootstrap, and then your application also uses Bootstrap but a different version. Some of the time they collide. With Angular, you can specifically take advantage of the view encapsulation feature, and it basically wraps your component or your elements in a shadow DOM, and it prevents the styles from leaking out. So your plugin won't affect the main application styling. So, for example, you have um, a style or a class called red, and this red class has a specific color or palette of red, and then you use the plugin, right? And then for some weird reason you also uses in your main application or in the CMS uses the same name red, then it leaks out, then it overrides everything. So with view encapsulation, yeah, as I mentioned, it wraps your element inside it. So later I'm going to show it to you, so you have an idea on what it looks like and why it works that way. um, yeah, I mentioned reuse components. So once build something, let's say for example, you have built this awesome feature, right, in your company, and then in other projects you realize that you can utilize that same feature. So instead of copy pasting or rebuilding it again, since you already have this published somewhere, your components, you can just pull it in, right, and use it. So typical plugin behavior, right? Next, of course, one of the reason is, if I'm being honest, is basically you just love Angular, right? Since most of the things that I'll be talking about or sharing about today are also available in other libraries, like for example, Stencil.js offer the same thing. Um, there's another one, Lit Elements, to name a few, and also again, as I mentioned, web components with vanilla JavaScript. You can also take advantage of that. And then one other thing that I like personally with Angular is that your components can share the same dependency injector, which means you can easily share data or functionality between your custom elements. So just to, I guess, show a quick a sample of that. So for example, you have this, I'm not sure you're going to see my screen, you have this big application, right? And you have this custom elements right here. Let's say this is an e-commerce. This is personally based from my experience. So we have these custom elements here that shows list of products. And then we have another custom element right here, which is basically the shopping cart that shows how many items are in the cart. So even though they are two separate custom elements, once the user click add to cart here, it we can easily share the data and pass it right here. So no extra work added since that is built in Angular. So, oops, that, yeah. So I'm going to the technical part. Setting up your Angular application, you basically have to type ng add at angular slash elements. This will install its dependencies and add polyfills to make sure your custom elements are compatible to all browser. So if your browser doesn't support custom elements, this will take care of that. It adds a bunch of polyfills. Um, Next, I'm gonna do on the setup part. So again, I'm assuming you are familiar with Angular, but even if you're not familiar, I'm gonna just discuss them one by one. Um, so you have, if you're building custom elements, you're gonna need the um, do bootstrap, injector, and the custom element schema. So we will use the Angular injector to resolve the dependencies of our components. So if your components depends on some other third-party libraries in order for it to work, the injector will do the resolving for you, its dependencies. And then it's also responsible for instantiating the dependency and injecting it into the component. Custom element schema. To tell Angular, basically just to tell Angular that we'll be using HTML tags or elements that will not recognize because they are custom elements. So, for example, you have jest element. So, any Angular doesn't know that. So, if it's just a basic div, then he knows it, right? But if it's a custom one, then he doesn't know it. So, you need custom elements to tell we'll be using other custom elements for this one, so you don't have to worry about the error. You don't have to throw those errors that you don't know it. um Next is create custom element. Again, it exposes us the web components api method that serves as a bridge that will convert the Angular component to a custom element. um, do I still have, yeah, so this is how you use the custom element in your app module. You have schemas and then just add the custom element. And then do bootstrap is an interface. So you have to use implements do bootstrap, and then you can override the um, methods later on, which I'm gonna also show you next. So again, the injector is responsible for instantiating the dependency and injecting it into the components. And then since you implement the interface, if you're developer, you're familiar with how interface works, you can override the underlying method. You can have your own implementation. Um, and do bootstrap allows us to register and define our custom elements so we can use it later once we build the application. Oops, did I miss that one? Yeah, so all in all, this is how your app module should look like as an entirety. So you have the imports or the dependencies, do bootstrap, injector, custom element schema, create custom elements, and then we have this custom table component that we built. I'm going to show what it looks like later. And then again, this is how you use them. Schemas and then implements do bootstrap, and then you add the dependency injector, and then in the ngdo bootstrap method you can register your custom components. In this case it's a table. um, Next is creating custom element itself. So this is a very very simple table that I'm building. So I guess this is much easier to explain than building something so complex such as like a pop-up, right? So for example, your company provides this um, widget or plugin for let's say showing that your forget the term, but if you're visiting websites, right, you see this small pop-up that they are using cookies in their website. They take this information from your browser to help them with their analytics and stuff. So you can build a plugin for that, and that will be too complicated for this talk. Or you can have if you have a marketing campaign, you can build a custom plugin that whenever a user leaves your site, this pop-up shows up, and you can add, let's say, sales or something to that. So those can be done as well. But again, this one is very, very simple table. Everyone knows a table if you're a web developer. And I'm just going to go through the code that I have here. So the name of the component is custom table component. um, I have a header inputs decorator, and I have a body input decorator. So basically, this component accepts two attribute once we use them. So a header and a body, which we're gonna display later on. And then we have this change detection or lifecycle hook built in Angular that if there's any changes with the value for these declared variables, we can check them. So the main reason I'm doing this, even though if you can see here at the header, I'm declaring this a type array of string. Um, but with Angular elements, all of the past attributes, they are turned into basic string or a simple string. That's why I'm checking them. If there is any changes happening on the headers, then I'm gonna just convert it into I'm just gonna parse it so it can turn into whatever type it is, so it's become an array in this case. And body, it's basically complex, right? Depends on the data structure you want to show. But this one is a key valued pair array of objects. So again, I'm just turning that into I'm just parsing it using JSON parse to turn it into an actual object, not a string. Then I just have these keys that gets the keys from the key value pair, so I can show them later on. um, on your HTML, again, this is very specific to Angular, but some of this, our main part of this are um, just simple HTML, right? So ngIf, there's just a checking if ngIf is if headers has value. If not, then this header will not show up. And then once it has a value, and once we converted it into an actual array, we can loop it, right? We can start looping the array of strings, headers of headers, then we display the value of that item inside the array. Next, the body data. Again, if there's any value, then we show this table body, and then we loop it. Once we convert it into an actual object, we loop it, and then we display those data. And then yeah, just have the keys to be displayed based from the keys. Um, yeah. So assuming that we already have all those setup done, you can now start using your custom elements. Let me just go back a little bit. All right, I'm just gonna show the entire code later on, but yeah. So for this case, we name it custom elements. If you're familiar with Angular, you should know that a component in Angular you can have a selector which you can name it on how you will use it in your HTML. In this case, it will be custom hyphen table. And then remember, we created two variables, right? A header and body data. So as you can see, the header is just accepting a array or a string in this case, but we are formatting that string into an array. So later on, once we parse it, it turns into an actual array. And then the body data, um, as I mentioned, is a key valued pair object. It has name, job, and location. Again, it depends on your what data you wanted to show, right? So it's very flexible, right? So it's not defined. You can pass anything you want in there. Yeah, so you pass the value, and then yeah, I have a highlight, and then ultimately this is how your custom element should look like. right? So we can just pretend that this is not a table. You're building something else that you can reuse in your multiple application, right? Since they have the same functionality, I guess. Or yeah, if you're a company that has this certain style of creating elements that you don't want to keep on recreating, or then you can take advantage of this one, since for this case it's a table, then table can be used everywhere, right? In most applications a table is there. So next, communicating with the Angular elements. We already saw the input decorators, which is built in Angular, and how we use them. Going back, so if you notice, the body data is Pascal case, or camel case. Once you declare a variable in camel case, this is how you use it in your as attribute. So you have the body small caps, and then you have a hyphen before, instead of having the data as capital. So you have the hyphen there. Just take note of that. And then I showed you the other approach earlier, if you want to use it in an Angular application. But what if you want to use it in not an Angular application, right? Or it's just a simple um, application that doesn't use any libraries. This is how you use it. You have this custom table. You set an ID, and then you have this script tag that you use, get element by ID. So in this case, we're using Angular table, and now we have access to the custom elements. And then we can pass headers as an actual array, and then body is an actual object. This is the other approach. If you're not using an Angular application, the other approach I showed is useful if you're gonna import it in also in an Angular application, since attributes is easily used. um, Again, communicating with Angular. So earlier with input decorators from the parent, which for example your application will serve as the parent, and then the child will be your custom table or custom elements, in this scenario. um, the input decorator allows the parent to send data to the child, so it can be processed, or it can interpret that data. But how about the child sending something to the parent? So with that, we use the output decorator. In this case, I'm just creating a custom event. So events can be click, hover, on mouse leave, etc. Right? So this one is a custom one, which is an action event that I created. Um, and then I'm just gonna I have a method as well that triggers the action, and it basically just triggered just emit that action back to the parent. So you can, so that the parent knows what button is click on, and then based from that they can do any customization that you want on based on the behavior based from the click of the button. um, Again, you can do more things in this method, but just to simplify this one out, this is just throwing whatever action is being clicked, so the parent can take action or can interpret or process it. With the non-Angular application approach, this is how you use it. So since we already have access to the custom element by using the get element by ID, which is a native JavaScript method or extensions, you don't have to worry about this. Um, you can add event listener, and then use the action event, which is an output decorator I declared earlier in the custom table component. And then this is a very simple one. I'm just logging whatever action is being clicked, right? And then again, you can do more complex um, things in here, but just to make it simple, I'm just doing that one. I'm gonna show everything in action later on, but I'm just gonna proceed now with using Shadow DOM. So Shadow DOM keeps the, as I mentioned earlier, keeps the markup structure, style, and behavior hidden and separate from the main DOM tree. Um, so it basically helps preventing any style, any structure of your custom elements leaking out, and also from any styles and structures leaking in from your custom elements. So I have a sample here. For example, this is your main application, right? You're building awesome application. You have this um, custom class you declared for a table. You want the background color of your table of that application to be black, right? So yeah, that's fine. And then um, now you're embedding your custom widget, and then that widget's style is destroyed because it now inherits the styles or class from the parent. So this is what it looks like. But if you have the shadow DOM here, we can see in this custom table component encapsulation shadow DOM, if you have that enabled, um, then even if there's any conflicting class style name that's available in your parent, this widget or this custom element won't be affected by that. It will behave the way you define it. Um, so going next. I hope I'm not going too fast. I'm just managing the time here. But yeah, let's move on. Um, Lazy loading dependency. So the use case of this is, for example, you have this application that has a bunch of custom elements. You have custom button, custom table, custom banner sliding, right? And then you import this script in your application. And then what happens if you don't implement lazy loading is that even if you're not using any of those elements or custom elements in your application at that moment, since you imported the script, it loads everything and it slows down your application. But with lazy loading, let's say for example your homepage only uses the table component, then that's the only part of the script that's gonna be requested from the network and then loaded, so it won't load everything. This library or yeah dependency, you can install it in your Angular application that has the custom elements defined. Again, there's this note here. This is for non-Angular application only. There are other libraries if you wanna embed the lazy loading or embed custom elements and want to implement lazy loading. There are other libraries that you can use for that if you're gonna do that in Angular. But again, this one is for non-Angular application. For example, you want to embed it or use custom elements in React. You want to use it in Vue. You want to use it in a vanilla JavaScript. You want to use it in a CMS application. You can do this one. Again, this helps the performance of the application because it won't load everything. It only loads what you need in that certain page. Um, Next, before I jump on to the code base, I'm using Angular's I'm using Azure Blob Storage as my storage for the um compiled widget or plugin or custom elements. um Azure Blob Storage is a Microsoft object storage solution for the cloud. It allows unstructured data to be stored and accessed at a massive scale in block blobs. Unstructured data, sample of them are files such as images, videos, audio, media contents. Um, you can enable also Azure Content Delivery Network to cache content from the Azure storage content, and then Content Delivery Network. If you're not familiar with the term, it basically helps reduce latency and improves the performance of for high bandwidth content by distributing user requests and serving content directly from the edge servers. This brings the content closer to the user and send less traffic to the origin point. So it makes help load your script faster. Some of the things I like with, or I guess characteristic of Azure Blob Storage, um, it's durable and highly available. The redundancy ensures that your data is safe in the event of transient hardware failures. You can also opt out to replicate data across data centers or geographical regions for additional protection from local catastrophe or national disaster. Let's say, for example, something happened to one data center, but since it's already replicated across other regions or data centers, then you don't have to worry about those stuffs. The data replicated in this way remains highly available in the event of an unexpected outage. Next is secure. All data written to an Azure storage account is encrypted by service. It's scalable. Azure storage is designed to massively scalable to meet the data storage and performance needs of today's application. It's already managed for you. Azure handles hardware maintenance, updates, and critical issues for you, and accessible. Data is data in Azure storage is accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS as long as you have access to the internet. But also you can set the um, security level of your Azure storage into public or private if you whatever you would like. But in this use case, since you want this feature or custom elements to be used publicly, I guess, then of course it's gonna be public. Excuse me. Um, yeah. So if you're interested with what the code looks like, you want to play around with it on your own pace after this session, you can just download it, get or clone it from a repo on GitHub. Take a screenshot of this. I'll give you 10 seconds, and also can have the copy of this presentation. I'm gonna say 10 seconds. I'm giving more time. All right. Now the boring part is over. Um, I'm gonna show you what the code looks like. So I already have pre-created an application, so we don't, or you guys don't have to watch me debug everything. So ideally, this should work um, out of the box, right? So before I do that, and then I'm gonna come back to this table widget builder later on. I hope you guys can see my screen. I'm gonna zoom a little bit. I hope that helps. All right. We're gonna focus on the. So I'm gonna slow this. I'll build this for now. So while waiting for it to be built, I'm just gonna show the custom table that I created. Again, already discussed this inputs. I just added some extra like table header and actions. And then this pretty much does the same thing. It just checks if something changed in that variable from being empty, right? This one is empty, and then to having a value. and then just parsing them because some of them are not string. And again, and as I mentioned, all of the data that being passed from the attribute are treated as a string. So I'm just parsing them so that it can be typecasted to their actual types. Right, so pretty simple. Going to the HTML part. Again, I have just table header. Just check if there's a table header class, then I'm gonna apply that using the built-in ng class of Angular. And then again, just looping the headers so we can display it properly. And then having one extra here for the actions. Right, so later on, I'm gonna show that to you. Again, the body, just checking if there's body, and then looping through the array of objects, and then displaying those values. And then I have added an extra since I'm applying actions. So I'm looping. I hope I'm looping here. Yeah, I'm looping here. Looping the list of actions available, and then I'm just passing the action, right? And then the name. So, all right, applications built. Um, Now, since this is not a normal Angular application now, normal Angular application has this bootstrap here, and it's basically says what is your main component for this application. But since this is custom Angular, this is building a custom elements, we're not gonna do that here. Instead, we're gonna override that method here, and we are registering our elements or components manually. So I'm gonna go back again to custom table component. Again, if you're familiar with Angular, you're familiar with this selector. If you're not, or if you're using typical Angular application, then this is how you're gonna use it based from that selector, right? But in this case, we are overriding that. Here, once we register the custom table component, we are injecting the injector so that it can resolve the dependency for us, whatever dependency this component has. And then we redefining it, right? So I can use the same so it doesn't confuse the people that's using it, or I can just say, just to show that you can override it, right? So now once you register it, this is how you're going to use it instead of having it like this, the one I showed earlier in your HTML element. So now this is how you're going to use it. All right. And then going to the index HTML. Normally, you if normal is this is a normal Angular application, you don't have to do this. This is pre-bootstrap for you. But again, just to show you, now I can use it here, and I'm passing um, table header, headers, body data, and then this is the new one, the action. So again, this is an object with key value pair. Just saying the name to be displayed, which is edit profile, and then what action it is, right? This is an edit action. Same thing with the delete. And then I have the output decorator so that this is now the parent. This index HTML now acts as a parent, and this now is the child. So if I want to do something like um, do API call here, to save any changes depends on the action type. If it's an edit, then I can do that here. But again, this is a simple one. I'm not going to do that. Um, so let me show you that in action, I think, which helps. I'm going to come back to that later. Now, this is how your Angular application looks like. So let me just open the developer console. So I'm going to show you what the shadow DOM looks like. So you see this shadow root? This is the shadow DOM. So it prevents your styles from leaking out and leaking in. So for example, I have here head. Hope I know how to type manually. style. Yeah, hope I can spell as well. Again, if I have here a table, which is this table header, for example, table header, table dot header, right? Then I say background. Oops. Background color will be red. Then, if I use the table, it will affect the design. Even though I pass this here, this will be overwritten by this one. So since this is protected, I don't have to worry about that. Now, I'm gonna discuss quickly this table widget, what it is, what it does. So if you are want to package this out or deploy it, you have to build your Angular application first. And we have here predefined script. So if you're Angular developer, the way you um, build your application for production purposes is use ng-build, right? ng-build. In this case, I'm adding some extra flags. So I'm just gonna type ng-build anyway, so you can see the difference. So notice this one for now. You have main polyfills runtime. Yes. So now I'm rebuilding that. That's gonna be overwritten, right? So using just the basic ng build. Um, so you can see why I did certain things. Hope it does faster. But while it's building, the main reason for it is I'm just gonna remove the hashing so that the name of the files remains the same. So hashing, as you can see here, it adds main dot and then this hash codes or hash strings in it. So every time you build your Angular application, it changes, right? And I don't want those file names to be changed every single time. So I'm just adding this flag, output hashing, none. And then I have this custom script, table widget builder, which I'm gonna go now and explain everything. Basically, what this script does is it combines. Let me just build it properly so you can see it. npm run compile custom table, which is the name of the script I made here. Compile custom table. Yeah, so basically what it does is it concatenates all of this file, meaning it's being merged into one single file. So it makes it convenient for you. So you only have to import one script in your application if you want to use this. So now I have this non-hash scripts built. So I'm just declaring those files that I need to be joined into single file. I need to ensure that the elements folder is does exist, and then I want to make sure that it's empty out every single time I run this custom script. All right. So I wanted this to be clean every single time so that I can put new data into it or new files into it. And I'm just declaring exclude files. Um, Basically, what this does is this includes everything that's inside this folder from being manually copied into this one because I'm gonna have them compiled or concatenated anyway. And I don't want them to be manually passed here. So I'm just saying, don't copy these files. I don't need this. And then in different instances, you might need assets. Assets contains the icon Softcon. If you see here, I don't need that. I just need this table, right? Oops, you jumped somewhere else. Yeah. So again, it depends on your use case, right? If your custom elements uses some assets like an image or another SCSS, you can define here specifically which one you want. And then again, this one basically copies everything into the elements folder and then concat it into a single file, softcon table. Yep. So this tree will become softcon table. So that's what this script does. Again, this is available in my GitHub repository if you want to explore it. Um, and also, there is another library that's being used widely to do this automatically for you. I'm just showing you that this can be done manually by by you, and this is how simple it is. There's a library ngx build. Just check that out. Check it out. There's a bunch of available customization that you can do when you build this custom elements using that library ngx build. Yeah, so I'm done with this one. I'm gonna stop this application. Hope you don't mind overtiming 5 minutes. I'm just gonna show this other application that I built. Let's say, yep. So while that is loading, I'm gonna explain what's happening here. Um, I copied that file. This is another application, the separate one. I copied those compiled files here. And since this is an Angular application, end up saying that in the scripts in the Angular JSON, um, saying that I need this file in my application. Right? That's how simple it is. No fancy stuffs here. This is normal Angular application, like I said. So let's go now. So I have custom table 1, custom table 2. I'm just gonna go to them quickly before I show custom table 3. Um, this is custom table 1. Again, you've already seen this, right? You can have this use like this. And this my header, my body, my actions is available in your TypeScript, which is this one. My header, my body, my actions. The other one is I will also already show you this, which is you can pass it like this, which to me is very ugly, I guess. Uh, but yeah, just to show you this is possible. And then this is how you can add the action event if you're not using the script I showed you earlier. Um, so you can do this. I have this method intercept action, which basically just logs the event. So I'm gonna show that in real time. Just gonna open the developers tool. So I click edit profile. It shows me what this element or event properties. I can see this is an edit, so I can do whatever is necessary for the edit. Okay, I can even pass if there's an ID. I can even do that. I can pass that ID as well. But again, this is just sending an action, just to be simple. And this one is delete. Okay, now I have this custom widget builder because all widget can be customized, I guess, at some certain degree. Um, I'm gonna paste this predefined one just to show you, just to give you an idea, right? If you're building something, then I'm just gonna generate. Now it's being generated. It's being manually added into my DOM tree, and then now this is what you want to put in your like third-party application. Let's say, for example, I haven't tried this one yet, but ideally this should work, right? Let's say change this one. I'm just gonna say HTML and gonna paste it here, right? Ideally, this should work, but it might not because this is a third-party domain that they know about, right? But ideally, you can just paste that in any of your application. So it has the script where what is needed, the Softcon table JS. It's hosted in Azure Blob Storage, and then the data or the custom element, custom table. So I'm just gonna go back to that real quick. Then I'm gonna add another customization that is predefined. Then I'm gonna generate again, and then I'm gonna copy the updated version. So just to give you an idea that this can be done like this. I'm not sure what else to show you guys. Oh, one thing. If you want to build a custom widget, since we are basically pasting it here, no, no, this one, this custom here, your Angular application will say an error that you're pasting something that has malicious, or something malicious. You can do is sanitize that string first, which is save HTML. Yeah, see here, right? I'm just adding it into the variable generated table text, and then I'm sanitizing it. This is to prevent cross-site scripting, by sanitizing values to be safe, used in different DOM contexts. Right. So now I'm safe to use it here as an actual HTML. Again, this is available in GitHub. You can check it out. I think that ends my talk. Um, Thank you very much, Softcon. Love being here. Hope everyone enjoyed my topic. I hope I didn't went too fast. I was very concerned about the time, and I was happy that I'm able to discuss everything that I want. And yeah, just feel free to ping me if you have any questions, or not sure if we still have time for that. But yeah, again, thank you guys.